This is hilarious. Michael Knowles is honestly interviewing a person about the Ouija board, and he believes they're real. Yeah, yeah, dudes. You can talk to spirits and demons using a toy created by a toy company.
So you're playing with the Ouija board.
Uh-huh.
The Ouija board, the idea is it's not your hands moving the thing around, but it's demons, basically. It's moving the...
Right.
No, it's not demons, it's the idiomotor effect.
Did it work?
So it's funny because my first encounter with the Ouija board was my mom used to have them as a prop for Halloween. No one played with it. It was just when Halloween parties, and she'd just have the Ouija board there. It would just be a prop, right? And I think one of the first times I remember using it, and it wasn't like I did this like hundreds of times. It was maybe a handful of times, 70 times. And so the first time it worked was I was at a friend's house. It was, I think, like 8th grade summer or something, 8th grade summer. And there was a group of us at this girl's house. And so it was a group, like maybe 5 or 6 was playing it. And it starts to move. Now, you know, everyone's first reaction is it you? Is it you? Is it you? Everyone's, no, I swear, no, I promise, no.
Yeah, those who don't understand how the planchette works and how Ouija boards work, they're always going to say, no, it's not me, because they don't know that it's them doing it subconsciously.
Everyone's denying it. I know it's not me. The thing starts to move. People start getting freaked out. And me again, I'm challenging this stuff. I think it's a joke.
Yeah.
Because even though I think like, oh, it really is moving on its own at this point. Now, but I'm like asking it stupid questions, you know, like, oh, if you're real, show your face, you know, and stuff like that. And so it starts to move and people will start getting freaked out. So it was like me and I think it was like 2 or 3 other girls and another guy. They said, and they start saying, one of them said, you have to ask it if you can leave. Like, I heard, you know, you can't just, or I'll leave the door open. You have to ask if you're allowed to leave. So they said,
I wonder where all these rules about like how you're supposed to interact with spirits come about, because you're also supposed to like force the ghost to leave, or could potentially, you know, leave the quote unquote door open for a quote unquote bad spirit to come in.
can I leave? And it goes, yes. Can I leave? Yes. And so next thing I know, it's just me and this one girl. And she says, can I leave? And it says, no. So she goes to try, and she's like, can I leave? No. And it goes, no, no. And she just freaked out, and she just ran off. And
He probably wanted to try to spend some more time with her, and it didn't work out.
I was sitting there and just laughing and
So it wasn't you moving it. And so you could say, well, maybe it's this girl just wants to, you know, spend more time with you.
Yeah.
You say, okay, I'm going to move it to say no.
Yeah.
But she gets very freaked out and then she leaves.
No, it was genuine fear. Like, she was like, oh my gosh, I said no, no. She just like freaked out and she left. So that was like the first time I...
Yeah, because they don't understand what's going on. Yeah, they're gonna, you know, be genuinely afraid, but they're also gonna end up believing that this thing is actually, you know, a spirit talking to them when it's just themselves. That's, you know, one problem with like ignorance. You don't actually understand what's going on around you, so you uh, claim it's something that it's actually not.
saw something come from it. And then years later, I played it. Back when I was getting really into the DMT, I had one and I was with one of my friends. And this guy was, you know, he was a very stoic kind of guy. He wasn't a type of guy to like get scared easily. Like me and him used to, you know, do all types of crazy stuff together. He wasn't the type of guy for one, to play into it, and two, to get scared about stuff like this. It's just me and him, you know, and we start playing, and like I said, I lived on that battlefield, and so we start asking it, things that starts moving. I didn't even need to ask, I knew it wasn't him. He knew it wasn't me, it starts moving. So we're asking him multiple questions.
Were you guys on DMT at the time you were playing with the Ouija board? Because, you know, while you know, tripping out, anything can potentially give you a bad trip.
And I start asking him like, well, when am I gonna die? When? And it gives me a number, and it says from an overdose. It says 37 from an overdose.
He had probably been worrying about dying from an overdose, and being that he was young at the time, he was worried about dying at what he considered to be uh, you know, probably an older age, dying from an overdose.
Ask it. And it gave him a number, and it gave him, it said, I think, like heart failure or something, heart attack or something.
The other guy was just probably worried about his own health problems too. Probably worried about his bad diet.
To this day, that friend is scared. He called me literally like last
Yeah.
year. He said, he freaked out. And this is 2012, 2013. I mean, to this day, he's still afraid of that. He still thinks that's gonna happen.
Yeah, of course. How old are you?
I'm 30. Yeah.
Are you scared?
No, because I think the blood broke the curse. So, but I think
He thinks some blood broke the curse. That is pretty wild and crazy to say.
that it would have happened.
Hmm.
I think that was the intention. I think that was the plan for my life, maybe, you know. But he still thinks that, like, he called me actually like a year ago or something. He said, dude, I only have a year left, if that, you know, like he thinks it's gonna happen.
Right, because demons can't read your.
There are self-fulfilling prophecies. Basically, if you believe something hard enough, you end up making it happen.
Your mind. Demons are not God. Demons are not omniscient or anything like that. But they are pretty good observers of behavior. And so,
There are pretty good observers of behavior. These things no one has ever seen or know or doesn't even exist. But they do observe things. Well, I mean, to be this crazy to actually believe demons exist and to say it with such a straight face is wild.
based on the behavior that you were exhibiting for a long time, it may have been a perfectly reasonable inference to say, oh, yeah, you'll die at 37 from a drug overdose.
Yeah, 100%.
So why are you doing? Because people tell me this. They say, "Oh yeah, I'd play with Ouija boards and crystals and weird astrology stuff, but it was all just kind of silly games." And I think when I want to play a silly game, I play Monopoly.
Yeah.
Why? What is it about? What drew you to the Ouija board and all the occult stuff?
I think just us as humans, we're drawn to the taboo. You know, I think it's
I mean, the occult isn't taboo unless you're like a weird religious nut, then yeah, it's taboo. People are drawn to the occult and stuff because people are still trying to figure out their lot in life, what they want, or for whatever reason, the occult uh, relates to them more than like mainstream media.
part of our nature.
I mean, not mainstream media, mainstream religion.
We like that mystery. That's why people like horror movies and stuff. And it's like,
And your inhibitions are already a little bit weakened because you're doing all this other crazy.
yeah. I liked that
Right.
like kind of that. I like the demonic type of stuff. I was drawn to the dark stuff, not not in the sense of, hey, devil with pitchfork and horn.
It's hilarious how people believe that this toy created in like the late 1800s, it's somehow demonic. Yeah, like these two people randomly decided to create a toy that can talk to spirits and demons and gods and stuff, yet they just market it as a toy and it's owned by Hasbro. That's pretty hilarious to believe this.
But the stuff that made people uncomfortable. I wanted to go into the water that everyone else was like, I don't know, that's a little crazy.
The secret.
Yeah. And so it was just something I did with like friends. I'd play the Ouija board. I started doing psychics. I went into all that because Buddhism is already kind of branched. I would say those are branches of that. It's like that whole world kind of comes together. It's the same thinking. And so I started getting more into the occult. And so what was crazy is when I was about 2012, I was doing a lot of psychedelics. I was doing a lot of heroin. I was in probably the worst place I had ever, one of the darkest places in my life. And so
Yeah, if you're doing a bunch of drugs and you're really depressed and stuff, that's gonna make you more susceptible to hallucinations and stuff like that. So this guy was just doing drugs and played with what he thought was, demonic devices, quote unquote, and ended up thinking they were real because of his drug-induced states.
I had this moment of like, I'm having encounters with light beings. Why am I not happy? Why am I still stuck? I can't stop doing heroin. I want to kill myself, and I'm thinking I'm enlightened. I would have a trip, and for a week
I mean, you probably couldn't stop doing heroin because you were addicted, and you were probably doing heroin because you were depressed because some situation or event or something in your life, or maybe you got, chronic depressive disorder or something.
be the most enlightened. I think I was Gandhi. For the next week, I'm Gandhi, everybody. And then a week later, I want to kill myself. And so I'm starting to connect these dots.
Yeah, sounds like you may be bipolar and undiagnosed. Drugs could, exacerbate it a bit. But yeah, a lot of people with bipolar, when they're manic, they think they're on top of the world. They have a whole lot of energy and stuff, and then it could be, like a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, whatever, they crash and then they get severely depressed.
So like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why am I having these great experiences, but I can't ever bring back the fruit or what I thought was fruit? I can't ever bring it back to my life. And I can't find the power to overcome any of my obstacles.
What did you think the light beings were? Did you think it was a figment of your imagination, just a chemical product of the drugs, or did you think they were angels or something?
So
Okay, yeah, he could think it was whatever, but the quote-unquote light beings that people see when they take shrooms or whatever hallucinogenic is just a hallucination caused by chemical overloads in the brain. That's all it is. No matter what era you live in, been in, whatever, ancient past, future, present, anytime you take hallucinogens and you see things, it's just chemicals. It's not something that's real that you're seeing.
with acid and mushrooms, you don't typically, at least I never had visuals where like, oh, I'm seeing this thing just pop up. It's more like the walls will melt. Everything's a lot more vibrant. But you could see something and it starts to look like something else. I had a time where like my dog turned green and his tongue was longer. Stuff like that, right? Like, but like like, oh, this is reality.
Still a dog.
Yeah. Like it's like I knew it was reality. With the DMT, this was like full on, like you're seeing a whole world just crack open in front of you. It's like going to Mars or something, right? Like right now, this room, just turns into, another realm, right? And it's like, so I knew I was hallucinating, but I also knew 100% this stuff is real. Whatever is in my room right now, these things are real, and they
See, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He says he knew he was hallucinating, which means the things he was experiencing was not real. Then at the same time, he wants to claim these things are real. So he's just lying or he's just confused.
they would be light beings. So they're a human shape, but they are like they were colors. One was purple, one was orange, one was red. It's like a flaming light, but in a human shape body, right? So it's like a silhouette. And then the thing about them,
It's a good thing he didn't name every color in the rainbow. Michael Knowles would get freaked out and been like, "Oh, these light beings are woke."
is that they would always speak peace, like we're here to help you. We're calm down, relax. We have your back. And
So it was this subconscious mind manifesting itself as a hallucination to try to get him to chill out because he was probably going through a slightly bad trip.
thing that was interesting, and I didn't pick it up at the time, but looking back, it literally was like, when you're swimming in the ocean and you feel like that there's something maybe under you. It's like you're enjoying the waves, it's fun, but you kind of like, oh, there might be a shark. That's how it felt. It's like, I kind of don't trust you guys, but I don't have a reason not to. You look pretty. You're giving me good information.
You're clothed as an angel of light, you might say.
Yeah. And so that's kind of where it was at. But it just never.
And they gave you advice in the sense that calm down, it's okay. What would they tell you?
Well, so like the one DMT experience I had these three beings come in my room. I freaked out. I started to try to get up off the bed, but there was a bigger one.
It's kind of funny how Michael Knowles is so accepting of this dude using drugs when normally Michael Knowles would be ranting and raving on his show about how, drug use is bad and how the left, wants to indoctrinate your kids to be drug addicts and stuff. And here he's sitting like, oh, yeah, you're doing DMT and stuff? How was that for you?
Like, so if I was laying down, it was like his legs were 10 feet tall. So the other ones I see in front of me dancing around, just swirling. This one was 10 feet tall legs. I couldn't even see the top of the being, but his hands started going over me. And if you've seen Reiki, they go like this. Like they do. He was doing Reiki hand movements over me.
Reiki is more BS. It's just people claiming that they can heal you by hovering their hands over you, and some kind of magical energy transfer happens to heal people. It's like, nope, that is just BS. I mean, honestly, if we could heal people that way, why haven't that been happening forever now? Why can't everybody just heal everybody or themselves by just hovering their hands over themselves and thinking about being healed?
And he was telling me telepathically, relax, we're here to help you, right? And then a few minutes later, my door opened up by itself and another one came in and it was dragging my body. So I'm in my body, I'm watching this. My body gets dragged in the room and they told me, if you don't stop doing heroin, this is you.
Wow, what a hallucination. He's so worried about dying from heroin that he hallucinates seeing his own dead body and these beings talking to him, which is just his own thoughts, uh, that his brain is manifested into the form of hallucinations because of his trip, telling him he's telling himself he's worried he's gonna die from heroin.
And because I used to get high in my bathroom. And so I knew they were saying like, you're gonna overdose in this bathroom if you don't stop. And so that's what I mean. Like they would tell me like, you need to be a better person. You need to.
So what is that? Seems to me there's 4 options. It could be your subconscious. You knew, even as you're doing a bunch of dope, you know that this is bad for you and it's going to kill you. So it's your subconscious telling you that, like in a dream, say.
Yep, that's the option. That's the most logical option, and that is pretty much the only option.
Or they're demons that clothed as angels of light, as it says in the Bible.
And no, because demons don't exist unless you're crazy.
Or they're angels.
Or
Again, angels don't exist unless you're crazy. And they exist because you only think they exist, and they don't exist. None of this exists. Religion, all of it's fake. It's just what people made up stories. It's like thinking that Santa Claus exists. What's the difference between Santa Claus and God? It's just things people believe exist without any actual evidence.
Or they're just some weird chemical hallucination, totally random, totally unaccounted for, totally meaningless.
Yeah, that too. It was part chemical hallucination, part his subconscious. Him, having always been worried about dying from drugs.
Which to me seems like the most ridiculous possibility of all. So
Right, and not demons and angels. Quite hilarious that those two, the actual most ridiculous options, he doesn't consider to be the most ridiculous because Michael Knowles is a crazy right-wing hardcore Christian.
which of the 3 is it?
So I think the interesting thing is that if you talk to anybody that did psychedelics, I think everybody would agree they're all real. It's like everybody.
It's not just your subconscious.
It's not your.
Yes, psychedelics are real because, mushrooms exist. We can create chemicals to make people hallucinate and stuff, but what you see is not real.
Imagination, your subconscious. I think there's times people think like your subconscious can create stuff that isn't really there. But those experiences are 100%. It's another dimension.
No, your brain can create hallucinations, and no, they are not real, not tangible. It's just something your brain is creating.
The veil is removed.
Yeah.
And I think that's what gets manipulated because of our ignorance, you know. And so, and I'll give you an example. The first time I did the mushrooms, I started to climb up a radio tower. And then I got about 20 feet up, and I saw, oh, what am I doing? I shouldn't be climbing a tower right now. I started to climb down. That inflicted a thought of fear where I started, for some reason, because I was in the woods, I started thinking about the Headless Horseman. And I'm like, oh, the Headless Horseman's gonna get me. I started to hear horses come, right? So that.
Yeah, he's on mushrooms, tripping, thinks about the Headless Horseman, so his brain thinks about horse footsteps. So he hears that in his brain, and because he's on drugs, it sounds like it's outside in the woods.
That was a example of me thinking something.
Right, and then it kind of.
But I knew, oh, I'm just tripping.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, this isn't real right now. And I went back in the car and I was fine.
Because you hear that expression.
Yeah, and sometimes when people are tripping, they don't realize what they're saying isn't hallucination.
And a lot of you are like, oh man, that guy's tripping over there.
Yeah.
Obviously, where it comes from is like you literally were tripping and you
I
were
was.
imagining something that wasn't there.
Yeah, and I was imagining it, and I knew I was.
But this was different than what was going on in your room.
Way different.
But so then,
yeah.
my question is, it sounds like they're demons.
Yeah.
But they're saying.
Yeah, Michael Knowles is obviously going to claim they're demons. That's what he's always thought since the beginning of the video, and that's what most Christians believe when people use the Ouija board, that they're talking to demons, because that's what they already believe to exist and stuff. Though it's funny because demons and stuff is like mostly a Catholic thing. So, you know, when non-Catholics believe in demons, it's just kind of funny.
Saying, hey, don't kill yourself, get off the heroin, which seems like good advice. So then it seems like they're angels.
Right. Right.
So what is it?
That's the deception in it. And so I think Romans 6 talks about, it says you're either a slave to sin or to righteousness. It says, look at the fruit of what's coming from this.
I don't want to be a slave to anything. So that's why I don't believe in this bullshit, because I don't want to believe myself to be a slave to whatever. Though, that's just another thing that's funny about the Bible is like, there's so many verses in the Bible where you gotta, you know, become submissive and slave and, you know, basically be a slave to God and stuff. And fictional beings that don't exist. And it's like freaking hilarious. You know, that shows that the book is just a tool to convince people to be subservient and more easily controllable, so that the high up religious class can just tell people what to do and get all that money. You ever wonder why you're supposed to tithe 10% to God when God can just easily create all the money he wants? I mean, if he really wanted a church to prosper, couldn't he just, you know, zap some money into their, you know, coffers and stuff without, you know, telling people to give them money? It's because the pastors and stuff, they know they can get fat and rich off the donations of people and not have to, you know, pay taxes on it.
And so I think that a lot of times we have to look like, what is the fruit that is coming from this? Like the fruit that was coming from this was not good in any sense for me.
Even when they say get off the heroin, that's not good. Well, I guess because it didn't work.
Because there was no power there. So it's kind of like, and I always use this illustration of, if I'm trying to kidnap somebody, I'm not gonna say, you know, hey, I'm here to kill you, kid, like come in the car. It's like, here's some candy. Hey, I wanna get you down there, here's $100.
He's so paranoid that even the hallucinations that were trying to help him himself, he thought were demons. It's pretty hilarious. I mean, not actually hilarious. It's kind of sad. Being this paranoid, this full of anxiety, is pretty sad. It definitely has to be a bit of a hard life to live.
So they don't. If you look at like the state of Satan being the god of this world in a fallen state, fallen angels having secret knowledge and you know what I mean.
Principalities and powers.
Yeah, and all this stuff.
Man, if you actually believe in Christianity, you believe that God is all powerful and controls everything, and that Satan, Lucifer, isn't all powerful and only has given domain due to the will of God, you would think that God could just easily just remove Satan from Earth and stuff so that, him and his demons wouldn't cause suffering to people, but it never happens, and it's like, why? How how can there be a fight between an all-powerful being and one of his creations that he can control? Because look at the story of Lot. Lucifer couldn't harm Lot until God gave Lucifer permission to harm Lot. So Lucifer, if you believe in Christianity, doesn't do anything that goes against God's will. So if Satan does something, that's because God wants it to happen.
They're not dumb, and so they can give you stuff that looks good,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess our imagination is just limited. We think, oh, those stupid little devils, we're so much smarter than them.
Yeah.